that you travel on with this one day here and the next day gone. Sometimes you bend and sometimes you stand, sometimes you turn your back to the wind. There's a world outside every darkened door, the blues won't haunt you anymore. Where the brave are free and lovers soar, come ride with me to the distant shore. We won't hesitate to break down the garden gate. There's not much time left today. Life is a highway, I wanna ride it all night long. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you're going my way, I wanna drive it all night long.
400 years ago, people were here. I'm in America, folks. Today, my wife and I are about to explore Jamestowne. That's coming up next. Historic Jamestowne is an active archaeological site and history museum on the location of the original 1607 settlement. Operated by Preservation Virginia since the late 19th century, the site combines cutting-edge scientific work with a phenomenal ability to interpret this early chapter of our nation's history to the general public. As you enter the property, you first pass this terracentennial monument, erected in 1907 to commemorate the 300th anniversary of Jamestown colonists arriving in America. As you walk closer to the reconstructed fort walls, you pass by this statue of Pocahontas, the favored daughter of Indian chief Powhatan, who later married colonist John Rolfe in 1614. This is the site and a partial reconstruction of the church where Rolfe and Pocahontas were married. Their union marked the beginning of a temporary time of peace between the English and Powhatan Indians. Excavation here unearthed the remains of the first substantial Jamestown church built in 1608. The large post-and-ground building was identified by the spacing of several major structural posts matching the dimension of the church recorded by Secretary of the Colony William Strachey. 4 burial shafts have been identified in what would have been the church's chancel. It is here that the most prominent individuals would have been buried. One of the most imposing structures on site is the church tower. For centuries, the church tower ruin, built sometime between 1660 and 1690, stood as the most iconic symbol of Jamestown's past. The structure survived despite fires, abandonment, occupation during the American Revolution and Civil Wars, and natural deterioration over time. Research suggests the tower was a later addition to a brick church started in 1639. The church and tower served until about 1750, when the congregation moved to a new church about 3 miles away. The brick church eventually crumbled, and only the ruinous tower endured as a reminder to sightseers that Jamestown was the capital of Virginia until 1699. Preservation Virginia acquired the tower and land around it in 1893, stabilized the tower, and in 1907 a brick memorial church was constructed on top of the old ruins. Walking inside, I felt a sense of reverence and awe, both as this is a place of worship, as well as the immense history of this site. Wow, but if walls could ever talk, these would have some incredible stories to tell. If these walls could talk, I bet they would tell of the 104 colonists who came from England to Jamestown on behalf of the Virginia Company in 1607 under the leadership of Captain John Smith. Their goals were to build a secure settlement, find gold, and seek a water route to the Pacific. A fort was soon built with a storehouse, barracks, and church inside. Smith was particularly adept at trading with the Powhatan Indian tribes, but his strict leadership made enemies within and without the fort, and a mysterious gunpowder explosion badly injured him and sent him back to England in October 1609. What followed was Jamestown's darkest hour, the starving time winter of 1609 through 10. About 300 settlers crowded into James Fort, where the Indians set up a siege, and only 60 settlers survived the next spring. The survivors decided to bury the fort's ordnance and abandon the town. It was only the arrival of the new governor, Lord de la Warr, and his supply ships that brought the colonists back to the fort and set the colony back on its feet. In 2012, archaeologists found the skull, mandible, and leg bone of a cannibalized teenager in the cellar kitchen. Naming her Jane, they presented the world with a chillingly relatable artifact of this challenging time in American history. One of the more surprising chapters of Jamestown history is that it was the site of the Confederate Fort Pocahontas during the Civil War. The embankment and earth mounds here are what remains, remnants of an effort to prevent Union ships from moving upriver towards Richmond, the capital and industrial center of the Confederacy. The fort was personally inspected by Robert E. Lee in 1861, but was given up without a fight the next year following the Battle of Hampton Roads. Under Union control, Jamestown Island was used as a camp for escaped slaves. Historic Jamestowne is a fascinating combination of cutting-edge science and public interpretation at one of the oldest historical sites on the continent. Thank you so much for watching this video tour of the site. If you are interested in learning more, be sure to check out my wife's blog articles on both Pocahontas and Jane. If you want even more riveting reading, head on over to the Historic Jamestowne website. They have a wealth of resources that are both scholarly and readable on this time period of American history. Links to all of these sites will be in the video description below.
Thank you everyone so much for watching this video of me and my wife exploring Jamestown and learning some of America's earliest history. Had a lot of fun, I hope you did too. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm having a blast with the bats.